got evicted from the apartment, and we had found another house. So we were going to move into the house. They paid the security deposit. We had the house. The house was ours. So at this point, we were technically homeless.
Everything was just bad at the time. There was absolutely no money. We found out that the house we were renting was in foreclosure. There was no money to do anything about that. And it was like awful. It was just awful, the worst feeling in the world.
Welcome everyone to Family Comes First. I'm Vincent J. Russo.
And I'm Victoria Roberts Drogin. Thank you for joining us today. Today we're talking about homelessness. This isn't just a problem in large cities. It affects small towns and suburbs alike, and it is becoming an even bigger problem on Long Island and in other suburban communities.
It's so difficult. People become homeless for a variety of reasons. The lack of available apartments and high rents on Long Island contribute to the rise. And then what about a catastrophic event such as Hurricane Sandy?
It's true. And when you have children, not having a home can affect them on many levels, social and otherwise. This leads us to the story of the Godfrey family, who through a series of events found themselves homeless and in a shelter. And while the Godfreys lost their home, their children did not lose their passion for music.
These young people have a huge talent, especially for jazz. They were able to arrange to practice their music at the shelter. We'll hear more about this remarkable family later.
Before we meet the Godfrey family, we have joining us in the studio today to talk about homelessness on Long Island, Shannon Boyle, Executive Director of Newground, and Evel Sweeney, Newground's Education Coordinator. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. Shannon, when we talk about homelessness, let's back up for a minute. Who are the homeless today?
I think that's one thing that most people don't understand is the homeless today can be anyone. It's children, it's families, it's veterans, it's adults, it's the elderly. Mm-hmm. There are so many people facing homelessness, especially on Long Island with the rising costs of living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, how do they become homeless?
Mm-hmm. Many on Long Island are living paycheck to paycheck. And if they have one crisis, a child gets sick, a parent loses a job, a car breaks down, they can't get to work, and they have to start to make choices whether they're going to provide food or they're going to pay their rent.
Yeah, and it's all the preconceived notions don't apply, especially in the economy we face today, and then when you have a national disaster like Sandy hit, all bets are off.
Absolutely. I think we've definitely seen in the past few years, at least at Newground, that two-parent households are facing homelessness more and more, as opposed to what used to be mostly single-parent households.
Is it a temporary homelessness? Is it a permanent homelessness? What happens when someone falls into that situation?
It can be temporary for some. I think that there are some that fall on hard times because of a severe illness in the household or loss of job, and it may take them a couple of years to get back on track. But for others, it really is a cycle, and you have to get involved to break the cycle of homelessness. You see that from generation to generation, the families are living just on the edge of poverty. And the smallest thing helps them fall into homelessness again.
Right, so without help, they can't really climb out.
Correct.
So tell us about your organization and how you help make a difference.
Well, Newground was founded over 20 years ago specifically to help the families trapped in the cycle of homelessness and poverty. And it was with the idea of providing long-term social work and education services to help the family achieve goals such as education, employment, financial literacy, so that they can truly break the cycle of homelessness, move into a market rent apartment or a home of their own, and not repeat the patterns of the past.
So you're giving them tools.
Correct.
Yeah. Evel, how does homelessness affect children differently than adults?
Well, with the students that we work with or we identify in each school district, generally your average parent isn't going into school and saying we're homeless
Right, of
because of
course.
pride and other
course.
factors. So a teacher may refer a student to social services because the student is falling asleep in school, because the student is hoarding food during lunch or breakfast time, because the student is below grade level. We find that the average homeless student is 2 or 3 grades below in reading and math. So if we do have a savvy teacher or someone who is informed about the subject of homelessness, they'll catch on, and then we'll get referrals.
Yeah.
Your average homeless student is not as outgoing as they were in the past. Or
So you're teaching the educators what to look for.
Yes.
So that they can alert the
Absolutely.
system.
Yes.
And then you also work with the children through Newground.
Yes.
Now, there are some laws that protect these children?
Yes, there's a law, it's called the McKinney-Vento law, and it basically protects the education rights of students who are displaced. So a displaced student is able to go to the school where they're currently residing or the school where they previously lived prior to being homeless. So if a family is in a shelter in one district, they're able to attend that district, but they're also able to attend
The original school.
Right,
So
the
kids
original.
can stay with their friends and their
Yes,
teachers.
and
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised
Yeah.
when we were going to be meeting the Godfrey family and how they were able to maneuver through the system, and they're going to share their story about how they were in class, and you would know whether a child in that classroom is homeless or not homeless.
And they didn't have to know.
Right.
Which
Right.
helps
Yes.
the kids maintain some
Yes.
normalcy.
Their self-esteem, I would think, is a big
Right.
piece of this,
Yes.
right?
And having an advocate so that
Yes.
they don't have to advocate for themselves.
Yes, there's a homeless liaison assigned in each school district. It's a federal law, McKinney-Vento, and a part of the law.
McKinney-Vento is the law. If
McKinney-Vento,
people want to look it up.
yes.
Yeah.
So each school is obligated to have a homeless liaison who advocates on behalf of that child or children in the school district to ensure that they're getting all of the necessary services.
And then the teachers are the ones who would alert the advocate.
Yes,
on behalf of the
sometimes they
child.
do. And our hope is that each school has a flyer or a poster informing a parent about this law, and then the parent goes in and, if they're able to do so,
Right.
they'll identify themselves as
So,
such.
so the key may be that the parents are going to need to be proactive.
Yes, absolutely, and the school has to be just as proactive as the school.
So it's a combination. Newground provides resources to the parents and educates them as to what resources are available in the schools for their children.
Yes.
As well as for life situations.
Correct.
So what would be like a typical call that you would get today? The phone's going to ring at Newground, and what are you going to hear?
A parent will call in and say that we're homeless. We heard about you through Department of Social Services or another agency, and we need a place to stay. I have 3 children, they're school age, and I lost my job. I'm working again, but my credit is so bad, no landlord is willing to rent to me.
And now what are you going to do for them?
We would have them apply to our program. We would meet with them and we go through an intensive screening process to see that the family is really interested in the intensive services that we provide, that the parents are willing to go back to school, increase their education, focus on their children's academics as well, be involved in going to the schools with Evel and their social worker to make sure that their children are doing well in school and that they want a different life. They want a brighter future.
So it seems to me that, on a real practical level, someone's in crisis, they're homeless. My hope would be they'd reach out to their family and, and
They have one.
and the local community to support them in any way they can. And then what I'm hearing from you is contacting the Department of Social Services.
Correct. I think that for many families, their extended families are in similar situations, so they don't have the support that they can provide.
Right.
If they're connected to a church or a religious organization, we often get referrals from religious organizations, but Department of Social Services is the first place to go to find out if they qualify for any type of assistance as far as food, housing, shelter, and whatnot.
So it sounds like your organization really partners with the families, not only to provide for them, but to teach them how to provide for themselves.
Absolutely.
So, I love your logo. I know it's original to the organization, but, the idea of someone being able to reach out and live and come to their own fulfillment on their own must be very empowering.
Absolutely. Our motto is we educate, we empower. And we want the families to set their own goals, to be able to work towards them in partnership with their social worker and their education coordinator and achieve them.
Yeah, the feeling of being able to do it for yourself as opposed to having someone give you something makes you feel like you can go forward.
Right. It's like that old proverb, feed a man today, give a man a fish, he eats for today, teach him how to fish.
He'll eat for a lifetime.
Eat for a lifetime.
It's beautiful.
Let's talk about some of the resources that are available on Long Island. What could you share with our viewers?
Well, I would say that Department of Social Services, there's a different, or one for Nassau County and Suffolk County is one key place to start. There's also the Long Island Coalition for the Homeless. They have a website. They also have a phone number you can call in and get assistance as far as resources and places to contact for help. And there is the online resource database, which is 211longisland.org, and that lists all different community resources, such as New Ground and other organizations.
I have a really important question, a very timely question in light of Hurricane Sandy. I'm sure you're getting a lot more phone calls. Many people have been displaced, and so how has it been different, or has it been the same in terms of the needs of those individuals who are now homeless and displaced or displaced by Hurricane Sandy?
Hurricane Sandy definitely has changed the sort of landscape of homelessness for Long Island, at least for probably 6 to 12 months. Some families, for example, 5 families in our program were made homeless by Hurricane Sandy because they were residing in Long Beach and Freeport. They have the support of our program to help put their lives back together. Many families don't have that support, and they have to start all over again. And they don't have the family support to maybe move in with a parent or a cousin or an aunt. Others have extended family support. They're going to be able to move in with family and friends and work on putting their lives back together, rebuilding their homes, and then return to where they were. Again, it's always those who are on the lower economic areas that will suffer.
Yeah, there are people who had just finished rebuilding from Hurricane Irene and then had depleted all their resources, and then when Sandy came through, there was no way to recover from that. So it almost feels like there's sort of a different, certainly some families are partially displaced. They're trying to stay in upper levels of their homes, for example, or they're rebuilding, or they're in the process. Are the services and resources different? Should they be approaching the problem differently?
Yes, the services are definitely different because we're talking about people who own homes, who have insurance that will help them put their homes back together.
Sometimes.
And if not, there's FEMA.
Yeah.
And just like in our work, our families, the first step is Department of Social Services. Hurricane Sandy, the first step is FEMA, and you need to call and make a claim.
Well, thank you for that valuable information, and thank you so much for being on our show today. Your organization is awesome, playing a vital role in our community, and it's greatly appreciated. When we come back, we'll be meeting a most remarkable and talented family, the Godfreys. Stay with us.
That song was a song called Spain by Chick Corea, and not sure when he wrote it, but it was always a cool piece that we always wanted to learn how to play. And so a couple of weeks ago, we were like, we pulled this one out, listened to it, like, we can handle this. So we learned it and we play it now. This all goes back to before they were born, my brothers were born, and before I was born, when my mom was pregnant with me, she was watching PBS, and Yanni, he's a Greek composer and a keyboardist, and he's in the genre of new age music. But she saw one of his concerts, and she stopped and watched it.
And the music was incredible. I didn't know much about Yanni. I didn't know any of the bio on him. I was just addicted. So, you know, Pledge Month, it comes on over and over and over again. So whenever I was flipping through, I would watch it.
And we'd watch his concerts literally from the time we wake up till we go to sleep. We wake up, watch it again. Me and David, he had long hair. So we would put our undershirts on our heads to pretend that we had long hair like him. We got our start in church. I started playing drums in church, and my uncle was the organist.
My faith, it means a lot to me. I love God, love him a lot, and I love playing in our church. And when we go to other churches, I like their church too, but when we get back to ours is just like the best church ever.
When you're first exposed to the talent, you don't know what to do. You know you have to do something, you know, and they didn't come with an instruction manual, you know, exactly how do you handle these kids. And I tell them all the time that having gifted children is just as much responsibility as having a child with special needs. You have to step outside of the box.
The apartment we was living in Hawthorne Courts, which is not too far from here, and since we were, you know, music in an apartment is not too good, you know, people were complaining, so eventually they was like, you guys gotta leave, you know, we can't stay here.
After that, we got evicted from the apartment, and we had found another house, so we were gonna move into the house. They paid the security deposit. We had the house. The house was ours. So at this point, we were technically homeless.
Everything was just bad at the time. There was absolutely no money. We found out that the house we were renting was in foreclosure. There was no money to do anything about that. So when the sheriff finally came and said that there was an order to vacate, that we had to leave, I called a pastor, a local pastor, and